Welcome to another SME Media webinar. I'm Amy Bryson, Senior Contributing Editor of Smart Manufacturing Magazine. Our topic today is the death of MES and the rise of the connected factory ecosystem. The presentation is sponsored by Machine Metrics, the industry's leading connectivity platform for manufacturing equipment. And our presenter is Graham Immerman, Chief Commercial Officer for Machine Metrics. Graham is an accomplished startup veteran and has quickly become a thought leader in manufacturing digital transformation. Graham previously worked on Madison Avenue, where he crafted strategies for companies like Reebok, Starbucks, Adidas, and H&R Block. Before I turn things over to Graham, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping items for our attendees. On the right side of your screen, you'll find a question and answer box. If at any time during the presentation you'd like to ask a question, type it into that Q&A box and it will be answered either during or at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time, the questions will be sent to the presenter to respond to via email. And if you experience any technical difficulty during the webinar, such as a lack of sound, use that Q&A box to alert us and we'll respond individually in writing with a suggested fix. If you're not able to regain access to the webinar live, the presentation will be available in recorded format at about 4 p.m. Eastern today. You can watch the webinar as many times as you wish. Just sign in using the credentials that you used to join us today. And feel free to share those credentials with any colleagues who might benefit from this topic. Now, let me turn things over to Graham. Welcome, Graham.
Thanks for having me, Amy. Hi, everybody. As Amy mentioned, my name is Graham Immerman. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at Machine Metrics, and thanks to all of you and our community at SME for having me here today. As many of you know, today is truly a once-in-a-generation opportunity for manufacturers to capitalize on the reorganization of the global supply chain. Just looking in your inboxes every morning, and reading articles about reshoring opportunities should get many manufacturers excited. To do so, manufacturing today must undergo a significant transformation from manual lean systems to connected systems that just rely less on human interaction. Yet, most factories still have disconnected operations. Machines are disconnected from the people who operate them and the systems that manage day-to-day operations. Simply put, the tools that were in place, the tools of yesterday, they aren't cutting it anymore. And a recent survey that we did across the hundreds of customers that we have suggested that over 80% of our customers either disliked or even hated their manufacturing operations software like ERP or MES. These all-in-one systems are oftentimes jacks of all trade or masters of none, and still require spreadsheets and paper to fill the gaps. The simple reality is that we can't solve the problems of tomorrow with the tools of the past. And fortunately, a new school of thought is emerging, led by visionary software companies like Machine Metrics with really one shared goal: to accelerate manufacturers' ability to connect, to optimize, to adapt, and to evolve their businesses no matter what the circumstances may be. And we call this concept the connected factory. And the connected factory features best-of-breed systems that each solve specific manufacturing problems with their own workflows and easy-to-access data, all connected into one digital thread. So from production to maintenance to quality to operations, this emerging ecosystem is now able to leverage proven SaaS technology to provide the best possible experience for you, the user, with the least possible manual data entry. So on today's webinar, The Death of MES and the Rise of Connected Factory, we have someone far smarter than I could ever dream of being, Machine Metrics CEO and co-founder Bill Byther, as your presenter. Unfortunately, Bill couldn't be here today live, so we actually pre-recorded his session for your viewing enjoyment. As Amy said, don't forget to drop any questions that you have into the Q&A section on the On24 interface. I'll be here at the end to run a Q&A session to answer those live. But until then, we're going to play this video for you, and we just want you to sit back and enjoy the presentation. And I'm not sure we can hear the audio for what it's worth, guys.
So Graham, we're going to work to re-upload that. So in the interim, do you want to give us just, and our attendees, a brief background on machine metrics for those who may not know the depth and breadth of your solution?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean,
Sure.
While we're waiting to upload, we started Machine Metrics to really solve a specific problem, which is, most manufacturers operate their manufacturing equipment less than about 25% of the time. And the reasons why machines operate less than 25% of the time are often in the hundreds. Whether it be misestimated cycle times or unplanned downtime events or lack of operators. Simply put, machines, right, are the center of most manufacturing operations. Yet when they're not producing parts, right, they're essentially manufacturers are losing money, right?
Yeah.
And the reasons are mostly there, right, but they've been siloed inside the machine, right? Machines know when they need to be maintained. They know how long it takes to make a part. They know what operation is running on the machine at any given moment. Yet that data is oftentimes stuck within the machine itself. And so our initial goal was to democratize that data, essentially to make it very easy for manufacturers to capture that data and insights from the machines, and then transform that data into actionable use cases that any manufacturer could essentially start doing from day one that would provide them immediate value for their production. So the foundation of Machine Metrics is our unique ability to capture data from machines. Doing so is really freaking hard, and took tens of millions of dollars of development to build a solution that when you have your automated turning, milling, stamping, fabrication, injection molding, cold heading, laser, axe, grinder, welder, robot, cobot, you name it. When we plug into that control system, we're able to unlock, map out all the available data items, such as, part count, cycle time, load, feed, speeds, temperatures, rotary velocities, diagnostic PMC parameters, all the data that exists on that machine, transform it into this common model so it can then instantly be driven into dashboards and reports, and automated workflows that trigger when certain parameters are met. So manufacturers didn't want solutions that were difficult and hard to use and required a lot of coding, custom development. So we sort of bring the best of both worlds in that we have a solution that can essentially be plugged in by any of our customers across every machine that they have, from a modern machine to a legacy piece of equipment. And they can start using within 24 to 48 hours without writing a line of code or requiring our system integrator or anything like that. So
that's awesome.
That's sort of the foundation of our system. I know that Sam said that he might have our video uploaded again, so yeah. I'll stop rambling and give it a chance to see if we can get it.
No, that's really helpful. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, let's go straight to the video.
So first, just a little intro on myself. My name is Bill Bither. I co-founded Machine Metrics several years ago, really to solve a problem in manufacturing in that legacy systems really require too much manual data entry due to a lack of contextualized and actionable machine data. So just briefly about Machine Metrics. Machine Metrics is a machine data platform that makes it really easy to capture data from manufacturing equipment. And this helps improve visibility, provides actionable analytics that automates workflows around the machine, and also connects to other factory systems. And in this presentation, I'm going to focus on the future of MES systems, or the death of MES, as I like to refer to it, and really explain how we fit into that stack towards the end. So really, the first thing is just to like set the playing field. What is MES? Really, what MES stands for is Manufacturing Execution Systems, and it's been around for decades. It really is designed to manage all of your shop floor operations. It takes shop floor execution data as input and allows you to track production, maintenance, quality, and inventory in real time or near real time. And this information is used to help make business decisions, to inform scheduling, to quote new work, to deliver product to customers, and also to account for finances. And MES systems really have had a reputation of being very difficult. And primarily this is because there are so many different types of manufacturers with different processes and different equipment. Capturing this information has really required an exceptional amount of manual data entry and domain expertise. And these systems have traditionally been very difficult to adopt. And we see, even amongst our customer base, that there's a lot of failures and a lot of costly failures and a lot of system implementations that just take years. So this is kind of goes into the current state of MES today. As I said, we have hundreds of customers, and amongst those customers, they represent close to 100 different off-the-shelf MES systems. Some of our larger customers are building their own systems. Really, we're not seeing any MES system that does an amazing job. And we end up with systems that tend to be jack of all trades, really master of none. They really need to check off all of these features, not only in the MES column that you see here, but many of them also in the ERP column. And in order to really accommodate the unique needs of each customer, vendors really are building specialized features that meet the needs for a small niche. And that's why we have so much fragmentation. But as you build a product for a small niche, you might be good for that niche, but you still have to check all the features that an MES really requires. And with that, you see not a lot of depth in terms of functionality and capabilities. And the other thing that I touched on is there really is, especially in the small to middle market, MES systems are combined with ERP, like your accounting and finance and order management, and that's even more that these vendors have to build. So you can imagine that not only do you have to build all the features of MES like around scheduling and dispatching and tracking inventory, maintenance, but also your accounting systems and supply chain and CRM. So there's just a lot there, and that's why we're seeing that we have over 100 different MES companies, even just for discrete manufacturing, with all these features. And what we're seeing is that these SMB manufacturers, they really can't afford all the system integration that it takes for these systems to work, and that's why you see a lot of failures. It could take 5 to 10 times more to implement a system than it actually costs for the software itself. And then as a result, you don't end up with a lot of configurability. If you need to make a change, you have to hire your system integrator. They have to come in and make those changes, and it could become quite costly. And then enterprise manufacturers, if you have a budget, you have an IT team, you have software developers, they'll tend more to either leverage a system like SAP, Oracle, and then spend millions of dollars customizing it. Some are actually building their own on a general purpose IoT platform as a backbone. But what we've seen stated by McKinsey is that 81% of these IoT implementations are failing, because you need these outside system integrators, and you have you don't necessarily have the domain expertise to really deliver value right away, and it takes a long time. So, and the other thing that we're seeing is that these existing MES systems really require everyone across your shop floor to be engaged and trained and keep data up to date in real time manually. So, at the end of a shift, there's a lot of typing in, hey, what operation was I running? How many parts? How many scrap? And with manual data entry comes errors. So you end up with a lot of bad data in these systems as well. So this is really the key problem that we're solving with machine metrics, since we automate data flow into MES systems with real-time machine data. And really, it's part of that connected factory ecosystem that we'll be touching on next. So, truly, manufacturing really must evolve. We're seeing this happening now. We're seeing a few vendors, including us, Machine Metrics, that are really leading this charge. And this landscape is changing pretty quickly. So, I can touch on kind of what that looks like. So, just to build up that that factory ecosystem stack, and I want to kind of lay out what typically you would see on in MES. And for those familiar with the ISA 95 standard, this would be the level 3 in ISA 95, which is manufacturing operations. And here, like I said before, we're really tracking the shop floor activities around production, maintenance, quality, and inventory, and that really defines the manufacturing operations or MES piece. Layer on top of that the business operations, level 4, which is per the ISA 95, and this tracks your accounting and finance, your sales and marketing, CRM, your HR systems, your product lifecycle management or PLM systems, and really many of this is counted for your ERP, such as an SAP, and this controls your all of your business functions and requires that data from the shop floor operations data. And then below that really is which is ISA 95 level 0, 1, and 2, is really right at the machine level and the frontline operations level. And this is the data source that really informs manufacturing operations, what's happening. And this can come from your production equipment or machines, your assembly equipment, facilities that control your environment, quality, and all of the people that are involved in that are required to make sure that that data is accurate and is entered into your MES system. So this is typically what you see in a factory floor today in terms of how these systems are implemented. And I'd like to pause here because this is in this current state. What we're seeing is, and this is maybe a bit simplified, but you're seeing maybe 1 or 2, possibly 3 software systems that do everything that's enclosed in this box. And there's a lot there, right? So this is why what we see is a lot of the jack of all trades, master of none. You see an ERP system that tries to do all of these things, and these are those black boxes that really aren't configurable, and requiring teams of IT people to implement, to maintain. You have these servers that can be pretty expensive. You need to manage these updates, offer training, onboard new employees, and you train them again, and that the team of frontline workers that needed to keep that data accurate. It really doesn't scale well, and the number of people that are needed to keep these systems really running could be staggering. It's really everybody, and with the staffing problems today in manufacturing, that could be a problem. So what we really see as the future of manufacturing, this is what the connected factory ecosystem should look like. Fewer people that are required to manage the complexity of manufacturing data, and this data is streamed in real time into each system with minimal to maybe no manual data entry. People are required to maintain and operate the equipment, and they're guided by context-aware instructions in real time with data that essentially flows directly from your machines to your MES operation systems. And this it really is that connected factory ecosystem. And as we know, manufacturers are experiencing these staffing shortages and really need to operate with fewer people. So that unnecessary manual data entry really should not be acceptable anymore. And the way that we solve this problem is with better systems. And data silos really need to be eliminated with communication both vertically and horizontally across that stack. And the best way that that I've seen that we can solve that problem really is with a best of breed approach with multiple systems that connect. There really is no single vendor today that can solve this massive industry problem, which is why you need to really pick the those systems that do the best job at what they're designed to do, and then connect with your other systems to build that connected factory ecosystem. So there's, I'll kind of change, shift the topic a bit, and really kind of get into SaaS. So software as a service. These are cloud-based applications. These are more modern software that really leverages a newer architecture. And what we're seeing is that this is evolving manufacturing. We're still in the early stages of manufacturing. We see in other industries, financial services, healthcare, SaaS has really gone even further. But what we see today with vendors such as Machine Metrics and others is that this landscape is changing pretty quickly in manufacturing. So the benefits of cloud software as a service is many. First, you really can reduce your costs of managing data. You don't have expensive servers to maintain. I can't tell you how many customers we go into that have this on-premise system with all these servers, a lot of data, and basically the software bogs down. You need to add more resources, more RAM, and it just doesn't scale well. Whereas if you have a SaaS software, all that is managed in the cloud by the vendor, and it scales. It can scale horizontally. So even if you're adding a lot of resources, a lot of people, a lot of machines, a lot of data, you're not going to see that that decrease in performance. The other thing that you see with SaaS, and this it's been counterintuitive in the industry. We started about 8 years ago, and the idea that the data does not exist on premise, that means that data must be insecure. It's in the public cloud. The reality is, security breaches almost always occur on site. A USB drive that has a virus is plugged into a computer that contains your data, and that data is made available. Best of breed SaaS applications, that data is stored very securely in AWS servers or Microsoft servers, and they require authentication, and there's security built into that architecture. So your data is quite often more secure in the cloud versus on-premise. And there's flexibility in terms of being able to access that data from different locations. You have the ability through modern access to open data access. You can connect these other systems, and also they tend to be more specialized. So SaaS companies tend to not be as broad horizontally; they go much deeper. And the software that you're running is always the latest version. You don't have to worry about managing software updates, installing updates on your servers. You're always going to be using the most recent version. And most people now are doing a lot of processing on their phone. Most of these software systems are designed to be accessed by your phone or at home, and you have that benefit as well. So over the past 8 years or so, we've seen a number of manufacturing startups that are cloud native with modern architectures that are designed to really work in the manufacturing vertical. And these companies really focus their R&D efforts and are able to integrate into other systems with this modern architecture. And I've only listed a few here. There's many more. There's actually, now, just in the last few years, there's, I would say there's more than 100, even focusing on the mid-market in manufacturing. So what we see a few here, these are some of the companies that we work with that, we're starting to see that ecosystem building. And what we see in actually connecting these systems is so there's some challenges. There's like two schools of thought on how an MES should work. One is that you want one vendor because you don't have to worry about taking data from one system and moving it to another. That takes effort, right? So if you're built on one platform, you don't have to worry about those integrations. But then you end up with software that often isn't very good, doesn't go very deep, tries to do too much. So the other approach to connecting multiple systems requires integrations. So I'll get into that in a bit more, but I really look at this as like 4 different levels of integrations to connect multiple systems. So the best is an out-of-the-box integration. So with an out-of-the-box integration, you basically sign up for a technology, a SaaS application, and you want to integrate with your ERP system, and it's right there. You click a button, and now that data is flowing, and there's nothing that you need to do. And the vendor themselves they maintain that integration. So they'll be updating it. If there's a bug, they'll fix it. This is the best scenario, an out-of-the-box integration. The reality is there's not a lot. We even in Machine Metrics, we have a small handful of out-of-the-box integrations. We're working on more, but we really need the industry to offer more and more of these out-of-the-box integrations. Fortunately, that doesn't stop us. There's other ways that we can connect multiple systems. So the other are these workflow automation tools, and this requires a little bit more effort. It's not very low. I mean, it's almost no effort for out-of-the-box integration. But for a workflow automation tool, what you do is that you can connect two systems through, and here's three. There's more than three, but the ones that I'm familiar with, we use Make. Used to be called Integromat a lot. Zapier, Trade.io, and that allows you to take APIs from one system and move that data to another system, and then you can run and maintain that, and it doesn't require any coding. And that can be pretty easy. You need somebody to be able to to kind of build these workflows, but it can work pretty well. And then there's also these low code and no code tools that help fill in some gaps. And this sometimes happens if you have two different systems and you want to have like a visualization of the data from both these systems together. You might want to have a different user experience. There's now these great tools that don't require any coding or very minimal coding that can help you pull these together. And take a look at like Microsoft Power Apps. That's pretty powerful. We use Airtable. Love Airtable. You can do a lot with that, and other platforms that allow you to build these UIs, and it can work really well together with workflow automation tools. And finally, there's the custom build. So these are integrations that would require code. You're going to need either you have your own resources or you need to hire outside resources to connect two applications together. This sometimes can be more robust. It's not as big as having to build everything yourself because you're not building all the features and the user interface. You're building the connectors through code, and that can be a pretty big effort. And that would be the sort of the last resort. But we have a lot of integrations that are custom. So the other option that manufacturers have is, well, okay, so existing MES systems, maybe they don't really fit all of my needs. Their software doesn't really give me the user experience that I want. So why not? We have a team of developers. Let's build ourselves. And the advantages of that is you can design your own user interface. You have full control over the data. You have a single system of record for all of your information, and you don't need to purchase multiple systems. So, hey, well then why not just do that? Really, the issue is that this requires continuous development and maintenance, a large team of software developers. Really, software development never stops. So, if you were to build a system and then stop, it's going to be dated very quickly. It requires really deep domain expertise. It's unlikely, just in the amount of effort required, even to get the basic features, that you'll be able to build advanced capabilities. And as we've seen, there's an over 80% failure rate. So there's a lot of problems with trying to build it yourself. And some of our larger customers, we often go in and they've attempted to build features, and they've realized that just to maintain that software is not worth it. So that would be definitely a reason not to build your own. So so I want to get back to the sort of the connected factory ecosystem. Really being our vision where those best of breed systems are connecting machines to your people and to your other systems, all in real time, seamlessly streaming. And these newer cloud software vendors really are filling in these gaps with this best of breed approach. Each of these functions that you see here can be filled by a single vendor that specializes in their domain. And some of these systems, they can serve a broader market. For example, your accounting and financials. A lot of our customers are starting to use a tool like QuickBooks more. It's not just for manufacturing, but accounting is accounting, right? But if you can add the manufacturing layer on top of that through your MES or through your other systems, it actually can work well together. And and then you have the advantage of having a modern UI and concepts that are more familiar to younger users. They're these workers, they want software that is web-based, that is really simple, without too many fields to fill in, and leveraging these developer-friendly APIs, those connections can really be easier and minimize that need for system integrators. So where machine metrics fits in really is in the this frontline operations, that the low-level piece, really monitoring production equipment. There's other companies that'll monitor quality and assembly and facilities, but we're really focused on that production equipment. And what we've done is we've made it really easy to support this vision, to easily capture and transform data from machines, and use that data to provide solutions around monitoring utilization, production, the condition of your machines, the tool life of your machines, and then easily flowing that into your other systems. And this is deployed as a SaaS application, so it's really easy to get started. You don't need any systems or database or servers on your end. And we're designed to connect with the other best-of-breed systems that are developing and are existing more and more in the industry. So just to give you a few of these, I guess real scenarios, we can connect to we basically connect to machines. We can automate the flow into your MES systems, and we've done that through a number of these systems listed here, and then some. And by connecting to machines, we can capture your the usage of the machines, your different part cycles, your operational information, like what part numbers are being produced, and we track those production runs automatically without any manual data entry. And then sometimes you do need to know, like, okay, what work order are you running, so the operator can tag that work order with just a button click, and then that production run is synced into your MES. And you can see that these are just a list of systems that are cloud-based, that we've connected to. And that's one approach, and this is one piece of that puzzle. But then what about manual assembly? Machine metrics is not involved here. So there's other companies out there. Here's a couple here, BKS, Augmenteer. They're really designed to help provide instructions for assembly, to pull data from measurements, to track the human data, and then synchronize that into your MES with minimal data input. And the same MES systems, right? So that really tackles the assembly side of manufacturing. For maintenance, okay, so we tie into maintenance systems. Again, the same data that's connected to machines, that alarm data, the usage data, meter values, those are sent to your CMMS systems, your maintenance management systems. So those maintenance work orders are created automatically. And these systems are designed really to handle those maintenance work orders, to track them, to pull data from pull products from inventory as you need to repair, to set up preventative and predictive maintenance schedules, and in this case, that real-time machine data takes out that manual data entry to enter in those meter values at the end of every shift. And so this is our customers really get to experience the machines that are connected to people, and adding human context only when necessary, and then having that flow into existing systems without that manual data input. And we're really excited to be part of this evolving ecosystem, the best-of-breed manufacturing SaaS companies, and we're really seeing that manufacturers really need to evolve their operations to be data-driven, and in order to remain competitive in today's environment, and especially with the staffing issues that you're seeing, supply chain issues, and this potential recession in front of us, is becoming even more important. So with that, I know this is there's a lot kind of threw at you in the last half hour or so.
Well, thank you for sharing that insider glimpse, Graham, and you and your team into the connected factory ecosystem and what the future holds. While the presentation was running, we received several questions from our attendees. And for our attendees, know that if you still have questions and you're not able to stick around, type those in, and we'll make sure that we get you a response after this webinar in writing. So let's jump into our first question. So Graham,
Sure.
what makes Machine Metrics different from all of the other solution providers on the market?
That's a great question. And, you know, I would just note that, you know, I don't know how many of you were at IMTS this year, but there were, you know, I think I counted 37 companies that claim to do something similar to, you know, the same thing, right? Monitor machines. You know, I think we recently published a buyer's guide to machine monitoring, so you can kind of better understand what the, you know, the differences between some of these solutions really are. But, you know, I think when it comes down to it, you know, machine metrics, you know, like I said, we've got hundreds of customers and thousands of machines connected across the world. And one of the reasons why we've been, you know, the fastest growing company in the space is for a couple of reasons. You know, the first is just when it comes down to machine connectivity. So, you know, the depths and breadths of machines, makes, models, and controls that we connect to is, you know, sort of second to none. You know, the fact that we've made it so easy to capture and data from, you know, virtually every piece of equipment on the factory floor is something that was so difficult that most companies would never even dream of wasting their time doing it. But we realized that it was, you know, the most critical element of actually providing the insights necessary for customers to optimize their production. You know, and furthermore on that end, you know, we've added recently the ability to integrate IO-Link sensors, which now makes about 20,000 different sensors plug and play with machine metrics. So we can add additional data points to those machines or easily connect legacy equipment that doesn't have, you know, like a connectable control. You know, so with that connectivity, you know, really the second thing that makes machine metrics unique is our automated production monitoring. And, you know, this capability enables any manufacturer to capture operational insights and data used to track production performance, such as, you know, cycle count, cycle times, part count, as well as the actual operation of the machine itself, straight from the machine with no requirement whatsoever for human interaction. So essentially, we can provide you performance and production insights on most modern machines without operators having to input any information into machine metrics. That's a huge game changer for most of our customers that, frankly, their biggest challenge is, you know, a lack of people right on the factory floor. And, you know, we heard a bit about from Bill, you know, specifically that, you know, MES systems in particular, you know, having to type in manual data, right? That's what's killing most manufacturers when it comes to productivity. And, you know, our system doesn't require that at all, which, you know, makes it, you know, really strong when it comes to, you know, providing those insights and doing so quickly. You know, a couple other kind of points there, you know, configurability, right? So this isn't just, you know, like a one-stop shop. You know, our dashboards, reports, workflows are highly configurable. So, you know, our customers can ensure that they have the reporting, the dashboarding, the automations they need at their fingertips. And that configurability doesn't require you to have any coding or you know, custom development at all. It's all just, you know, configurable within the software itself. As Bill mentioned, you know, extensibility, right? So our understanding of like where we do begins and ends, right? You know, our data is completely portable through, you know, a GraphQL API or through webhooks, so you can drive your ERP or MES, or we even have clickable integrations with CMMS within the platform. So within one click, you can start driving workflows in your maintenance using real-time data from machines.
Well, that's awesome. That's equally valuable for the SMMs as the enterprise folks. So that's great.
Totally. I mean, whether you've got, you know, like MaintainX or Upkeep or even like Maximo, right, or your SAP maintenance module, you know, most of our customers are driving their maintenance programs using calendars, right? And the reality is that, you know, machines know when they need to be maintained more often than not. I think a lot of people are, you know, hear the buzzwords of predictive maintenance and, you know, how do you predict when machines are failing? It's like, well, you know, you don't need to jump from, you know, a calendar to a prediction. What you need to do is you need to say, well, when this machine alarms or when a load gradually exceeds to a certain threshold, right, these are the moments where it's time to start driving your maintenance program with real-time usage of the machine. And, then you can graduate into more of a predictive maintenance program, both of which are supported by our solution. And I think the last one would really be, scalability, right? So, we have customers from mom and pop job shops to some of the largest companies in the world. And, they've rolled out, machine metrics across, even just a factory floor in an afternoon, but, across an organization, in less than a month. And, these customers previously had tried to spend years rolling out, more like generic IoT solutions and things like that. So, we've really been able to differentiate our speed of scale and value.
Great. Okay, a couple more questions from our audience. Does tool monitoring consider tool wear?
It's a great question. Yeah, so one thing that's cool about being a company that has access to the data from the machine is that we're able to unearth really unique insights. And I'll give you an example. I'll avoid my art anecdote this afternoon, but essentially, like when you're pulling data from a machine every every second or so, we call that it's a hertz rate, right? You're able to drive almost every use case that you want to monitor your production. Your cycle times, your setup times, your machine conditions, right? But to visualize what's actually happening and the actual wear of a tool, and even when a tool potentially fails, is actually much more difficult to do that. And in order to visualize that, you need to actually pull data directly from the control at a much higher speed. So it's sort of like I'm going to go into my art analogy because I think it's fun. It's like a pointillism painting, right? Like when you're at a certain, if you're close to the painting, you can only see one dot here, one dot here, one dot here, one dot here, and it doesn't look like anything, right? When you move back and all the points are there and you're like, oh my God, this looks like something, a thing, right? And the same is the case with tooling. When you just only have, one data point every, second, you can't really see what's happening on the tool. We've discovered a way to pull that data from the FANUC control, for example, at about 1,000 hertz. So about 1,000 times the normal speed. And when you do that, small microfractures in the tool that were essentially invisible previously start becoming actually quite visible. You can then correlate those breakages through a supervised machine learning, essentially an operator telling us, yes, the tool actually did break, or yes, the tool is compromised. And then we've driven that use case for our customers in an automated workflow that actually places a feed hold on the machine when those conditions are met in the future. That same data pull can also help us easily plot out tool wear over time. And we actually launched an in-app feature for our customers where they can now set drag and drop limits for their tooling, and then trigger automated notifications either to operators or frontline workers, or even an API that drives, say, like a tool change system that actually can drive a tool change automatically.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Another question: can you briefly touch on the cybersecurity features?
Yeah, sure. Machine metrics. So we're one of 20 industrial software competency partners, with AWS. So we've sort of gotten their stamp of approval that, this is a product as secure as any AWS product they would sell themselves. So I think that, that stands, for a lot when it comes to AWS when we're talking about cybersecurity, which is the largest, IT company in the world. We also are ISO certified, so another stamp kind of approval there. When it comes to like the actual, edge documentation, we have a lot of documents that we can provide to our customers that like dive a bit deeper. But some of the like elements that you'd probably be maybe like more interested in would be, when we connect to certain machines over a network, right, and transmit that data, the edge device reaches out to the machine to gather data and pushes it into the cloud. But because it's an edge-initiated communication, there's no inbound data, right? So it's essentially providing like an extra layer of security for the machine that maybe doesn't have that data previously. So I think when you're considering connecting machines, whatever you do, don't connect it directly to your network. You probably want to have something in between. And our edge platform, right, that's like essentially our connectors to the machine, can actually run on the solution like that can actually provide additional security blanket for your machines. Now, some of the other elements are you have to enable certain ports, outwards, right? So the machine can actually stream data out, enable certain domains that need to be, connected to, like I said, it's not recommended that you connect your machine directly to the internet, but with our edge devices, dual internet, Ethernet, YP, we provide the security barrier between the internet, your network, and your machine's control. So if that answers any of your questions there, awesome. We could also send out some documentation to anyone who's interested in the cybersecurity in more detail.
Great. Okay, another question. How do you differentiate non-cutting time from machine idle time?
Great question. I mean, it's a great question. A lot of it has to do with like the actual, we're actually having this discussion earlier today. It's like literally like the friction on the spindle. It's like are you actually cutting something or are you not? It's relatively easy, and because we have thousands of machines connected to our platform, it's much easier for our solution to differentiate between when something's actually in a cutting state and when one is not. Our solution has essentially learned, right, over years of different machine connections, how to differentiate between like a machine that's actually in cycle making parts. I'll give you a great example of that. You have to go even further. It's not just cutting time and machine idle time. It's also, say, like a setup time, right? Like maybe your first part run isn't actually in cycle. It's just kind of like a warm-up run, right? So, we're actually launching this quarter automated setup detection. And we're doing that by understanding, when, certain machine states that precede certain, cycle time states. Long story short, once a machine actually starts making consistent cycles, you can assume, right, based on the data set that we have, that the machine's actually cutting, versus, say, like a single cut, right, a single cycle may indicate that it's typically like a warm-up run. And then what happens before that cycle, that setup time begins, or a changeover or whatever, can actually be indicated by certain machine states correlated with even times a day. So we've got some really cool tech that we're releasing around that. That makes it even easier for our customers to be able to have the context they need to actually inform, decision making.
Okay, great. Okay, another question. How does machine metrics drive other factory systems?
That's a great question. There's a number of different ways. One of the core use cases that I've seen are, great examples like manual data entry in the MES, right? I mean, people essentially wait, until the end of the shift and put this data into your MES, and they literally walk over to these MES terminals and they type this information in. And it's, at that point, it's late, right? It's inaccurate because it's prone to manual data entry failures and all sorts of problems with that. And operators freaking hate to do it. They hate doing it, right? People hate typing in information in the systems when like they're already dramatically capacity constrained, right? So a good example there is that, machine metrics, we actually scrape the program headers on certain runs, so we know what operation is occurring on what machine at any given moment, and we can marry that operational context to the real-time machine data, such as part count and cycle time, and that's essentially, when added to, say, like a work order, that's all the information that you need to drive that information into MES or ERP, right? So that's a solution that many of our customers use, is essentially using machine metrics to automate data entry into an MES or an ERP system. But another use case, there might be something like maintenance, and we sort of intimated this earlier. How just knowing when a machine is in an alarm state, or over a certain period of time, that a load indicates that there's too much friction on the spindle or something like that, right? The machine conditions can tell you when maintenance needs to be done. Yet the majority of the time, that machine data, like I said at the beginning, is siloed, right, in the machine itself. And so we use these calendars, right, to run maintenance. So another way that machine metrics runs factory systems is by automating maintenance workflows into systems like Maximo. We have out-of-the-box integrations with Fix, Upkeep, MaintainX. So within a click of a button, you can start setting up workflows that drive instant maintenance tickets in your maintenance solutions instead of calendar-based maintenance, right? So those are just a couple examples. Now we also have APIs and and webhooks, so you can go even further and pulling in information to machine metrics as well, and vice versa. But when you're starting to look at the future of manufacturing, I mean, think about it like this, right? You've got your design, right, that happens over here, right, and the program that gets spit out runs in the machine over here, but there's no feedback loop, right? So how do you optimize like a program, or how do you ensure that you're making every part actually better than the last, right? Well, real-time information from the machine should be driving, right, CAM, right, and optimization of programs, right? So we continue to evolve machine metrics into what we believe is more of like even an operating system, right? They can start driving these different systems to improve over time. Many of our customers today use it for production monitoring and performance monitoring today. But you can see that once you have access to that data, there's a number of different ways that we can drive other systems to improve.
Great. Okay, we've probably had time for one or two more. You've touched on this a little bit, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about how legacy machines are connected.
Yeah, sure. So we have digital I/O and analog sensors and experts on the machine metrics side that can essentially capture anything from part count to cycle time to machine in cycle, from machines as old as like World War I. We also can add additional sensors like temperature, current transducers, vibration sensors to add additional context to that data. It's very easy to do. Last year, 80% of our customers self-installed machine metrics either on their modern or legacy machines without us ever coming on site.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. What about an interlock for line supervisor to badge to control operator interaction?
Trying to understand what that question means. I'm like, let me put it like this. Like, everything within machine metrics is like eminently configurable, so you can kind of like decide how you want it to work, right? So, some customers are like, we don't want any operator interaction whatsoever, right? And we're like, okay, sure, like that's no problem. We can set that up. Some of our customers actually require that when a machine is down for a certain amount of time, they tell the customer, they tell the frontline worker or the operator, hey, you need to tell us what's going on in the machine. I would just note for any customer that's really thinking about doing that like I would be wary of driving use cases that force your operators to spend a lot of time categorizing or adding additional context to machine data. And the reason why is because I think for like short periods of time, you can use that to say, identify some bottlenecks or some, errors. But over time, right, you want your frontline workers and your operators to actually be more involved in like the continuous improvement process, but inundating them with tasks that they hate to do is a surefire way of getting them to like, get in the way of your IoT initiatives. So my suggestion is instead, utilize solutions like machine metrics to actually get them what they need faster, right? So we have an operator interface that allows operators to actually call for help or even, ask for maintenance or even say, hey, I need material, right? And like those are use cases that get operators more involved in the process, versus sort of like demanding that they add, data or manual data entry, which as we discussed before, can be sort of challenging. So, but I think, like I said, I've seen people successful doing both. I think it's just you have to better understand your shop floor and your culture.
Yeah, excellent. Well, That's great. I mean, we're at time, so perfect timing. And thank you again, Graham, and your team for such a valuable presentation in all of those examples. And for our attendees, remember that SME and SME Media are here to help you stay up to date on all things manufacturing. Check out our podcasts at sme.org/podcasts. You can hear a variety of manufacturing professionals discuss the challenges, opportunities, and best practices impacting manufacturing today. And keep up to date with breaking news at sme.org/latest-news. Thanks again, Graham, for joining us. And thanks everybody who attended. We hope you'll join us again soon, and take care.
Thanks, everyone.